What is going on, Trash Talkers? We are back with another episode for you. In today's video, we're going to tell you exactly what Deshaun Watson's suspension should have been. All that and much more coming your way right now! Alright, before we get into today's video, be sure to hit that subscribe button and like the video as it will help us out tremendously. So sit back, relax, and enjoy today's video. Alright, Nick, Judge Sue Robinson came down with the ruling for Deshaun Watson. We have been waiting months, even years at this point, for this to come down, and now we have it. 6 games for Deshaun Watson. I'm not going to recap everything that happened and led us up to this point. If you need to know that, we've done plenty of videos on that, so go and check those out. Nick, I want to talk to you about the ruling specifically and kind of what we saw happen, what the judge ruled on, and kind of what your thoughts are on the 6-game suspension. So I'm going to let you go first because I have quite a bit to say as well.
Yeah, when we heard the ruling come out this morning, it was honestly a shocker to see that Deshaun Watson was only going to get a 6-game suspension when you look back at how long this has dragged out and what Deshaun Watson has done to the shield of the NFL. To me, there was no way that he was going to get away with less than a half-year suspension. But to see him get only 6 games, to me, is baffling, especially when you look at the other suspensions that have been handed out recently. Calvin Ridley betting on some games, getting suspended for an entire season. Then you see DeAndre Hopkins taking steroids for an injury that occurred, getting a 6-game suspension. And now you say Deshaun Watson, who did all these heinous acts in front of many women, dozens of women, now gets away with a 6-game suspension as if he just popped a pill and said, I made a mistake. It's not the same. Deshaun Watson cannot be treated the same way as those other suspensions. This is completely different. It should be held to a much higher standard, and he should not have the freedom that he's been given. Deshaun Watson being traded to the Cleveland Browns and getting the biggest contract in NFL history was astonishing and something that should not have happened. But now for him to be given the ability to play in his first season with the Cleveland Browns, and the majority at that, it should not happen. And I'm hoping that Roger Goodell, with his power, is going to increase the suspension because it is not just. This is not a fair suspension for the crime that was committed.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think the one thing we have to separate is that this is the first case that Sue Robinson has ever heard from the NFL, right? So you talk about DeAndre Hopkins, you talk about Calvin Ridley, hell, you can talk about Ray Rice and Tom Brady and all these other notable suspensions, right? All of that was handed down by the commissioner himself. Roger Goodell took care of those decisions. Now the CBA calls for an independent arbitrator to come in and hear the case between the NFL and NFLPA, and then she will rule on what they think is the proper amount of game suspension, if a suspension is warranted at all. I believe at this point, Sue Robinson got it wrong in her first case. The fact of the matter is the precedent has been set that betting on games, as you said, Nick, is a 12-game suspension. And to be fair, it was one game that he wasn't even a part of. On top of that, DeAndre Hopkins suspended for 6 games for PEDs. There were trace amounts in one test. They retested him and it didn't exist. So you're telling me that something like that is the equivalent to sexually assaulting 25 different women? The issues at play here are that the judge only heard 5 of the women testify and 1 was deemed inadmissible, ruling it down to 4. This was a big issue, and when you take a look at what Sue Robinson was talking about in her ruling, she talked about how Deshaun Watson showed no remorse for his actions. His conduct was, quote, predatory and egregious. These were the words that she used, and then she only comes down with a 6-game suspension. In my head, in my eyes, when you're saying that he does not have any remorse for his actions. You're telling me that there were actions to be taken which led to a suspension. I don't understand at that point when you can say 6 games is enough and is warranted for what he has done. I know you can point to Ben Roethlisberger and Ezekiel Elliott both getting 6 games for civil cases that were around sexual assault, but the fact of the matter is that the NFL has made it their goal to increase viewership in the female community amongst all NFL teams. This is the opposite of that. They are going to hurt their female NFL viewing audience, and the fact of the matter is the NFL has shown again that they care more about dollars and cents than they do about the lives and the well-being of the females that were affected in this trial. Talking to some people who have extensive knowledge in this realm, they understand that there are different aspects here at play. The fact of the matter is that there wasn't any criminal charges brought against Deshaun Watson. He did settle all of these suits. The problem is that we know that where there's smoke, there's fire, and Deshaun Watson deserved to be suspended longer. Nick, before I wrap it up, I want to ask you, because I've been very vocal about what I think should have happened to Deshaun. What do you think would have been the number of games that you would have given him if you had heard this case?
Realistically, I believe that it should have been 8 games. As me and you suspected all along, Deshaun Watson should not have gotten less than 8 games, but the NFL, seeing that he has all this attention around him, a lot of people want to see Deshaun Watson on the field and with his new team and see what the Cleveland Browns can do. I get that. I understand the business side of everything, but he should have gotten 8 games, and I think that's a fair amount for both parties to say he is getting a stronger punishment than most, which is the 6 games he got, but he is not paying the ultimate price, which would be a full season. I think 8 games is the middle ground for the NFL and the NFLPA. Unfortunately, that fell short, but I am hoping that Roger Goodell uses his power to increase this at least by 2 games.
I agree with you 100%, except for the number of games. For me, I think it warrants an entire season. I believe that when you take a look at what happened to these women, you're talking about sexually assaulting them in their place of work. And not only was Deshaun Watson to blame, he was the sole person doing this to them, but he was complicit with the Houston Texans. We haven't even gotten into that part yet, and we'll do that at a later time. But the fact of the matter is that this was planned, and this was something that he knew going into was going to be an issue. That's why he had them sign NDAs that were prompted by the Houston Texans. That's why he had them meet him in hotel rooms that didn't have video cameras and away from the team facilities. These are the issues that we are at play. He is a predator through and through. When you listen to Tony Busby, the lawyer who represented most of the women, talked about, this is a quote slap in the face to the women that came out and gave their stories and were brave enough to talk about what happened to them. Deshaun Watson got off scot-free, and for those of you who want to say, well, he missed last year, so that was almost like a pseudo suspension. No, it wasn't. He got paid all of last year to sit on the sidelines and do nothing. In fact, he didn't even want to play for the Houston Texans, so he got exactly what he wanted and he got paid. And for those of you saying that 6 games is plenty because this is exactly where the NFL should have gone, you're just missing exactly where we're going with this. The fact of the matter is there are so many different aspects outlying here that you have to take into account. Deshaun Watson deserved at minimum a full year suspension, in my opinion. All right, well, I want to hear from you guys. Let us know in the comments down below what you think of Deshaun Watson's suspension. Let us know if you believe that he deserved more games or if you think Sue Robinson got it right. All right, well, that's going to be all for now. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell. We go live every single day. That'll be all. Peace and love.